Why would a goddess hide in plain sight? Welcome to the Black Madonna Codes. This is what we're going to talk about just after our intro video.
Welcome to the Black Madonna Codes, a weekly conversation for women leaders who know the sacred feminine cannot be contained, sanitized, or erased.
Through honest conversation about how the Magdalene principles are woven through history, race, spirituality, and current lived experience, we are widening the story and honoring the many cultures that have carried this wisdom.
We're inviting you to open your heart with us as we explore the Magdalene path with curiosity, humility, and reverence for the lineages we carry.
Good morning. Good morning. So excited to be on this again. I wait for these all week.
Yes, they're very cool.
They're very cool.
And also very organic.
Indeed. So we've been circling this conversation, I feel like this whole time, Deidra and I, elements of this I didn't fully understand. And I think it's dropped me into, as usual, we have more questions than we have answers. And we have, we don't have a piece of advice. And I feel like in this conversation, there's often a negative outlook on a woman who is hiding and a positive outlook on when she is no longer hiding. And I really think that this conversation is going to shake that up a bit, because we do what we have to do when we're in survival. And we hold our power in ways, and I see this across so many different people. We're going to talk about lots of different examples. We hold our power even when we're among systems and communities that have tried to flatten and erase us, or redefine us, or put us into their boxes. Just like the Black Madonna. I think about Black Madonna and this. We don't know, right? Like, was Isis an actual creature? Was Isis an ideal? Was she an archetype? But just her as an example, if she was an actual personified being, and there's these statues representing her that people have worshipped for, however many thousands of years. And why would she allow this this system and structure to come in and just throw some robes on her and call her Mary for the next 1,000 years? Like, why would she allow that? And was something lost there? Like, we feel this sting of what was lost, but when we really look at the woman behind it, the goddess behind it, what was there really something lost? And has she continued to persist and prevail?
Yeah, this is why I like to talk about it in terms of principles. When we talk about the codes or the principles, what are the principles behind this either person, idea, ideal, what this entity represents? What are the principles? Because I think that's what transcends time and space. It's the principle, and you can slap any name on it that you want to slap on it. I kind of feel the same way about, I'm bracing myself for the backlash. I kind of feel the same way about the Christ principle, right? There's Jesus, the person who came to embody the Christ principles and told us that all of us have the capacity to embody the Christ principles if we'll pick up our cross and walk and follow, et cetera, et cetera. So when you hold it in that kind of a frame, it's much easier to notice where this principle appears across time and space.
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to having it attached to a image or a particular person or a particular practice. Because I from so I had questions when I grew up in a very churchy environment, lots of ministers and ministry in churches, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, everybody. And when I got to be a young adult, what I started to question is, why are there all these different religions? And when I started looking at what each different religion is about and what they stand for, I started to see a common thread. Now, they don't call it by the same name that Christians necessarily call it, but they're still having a version of that similar practice, right? When they asked Jesus, disciples asked him, like, can you just sum it all up for us? And it was basically love God and love your neighbor, right? That's the gist of it. And so if I look around and I see other spiritual practices that are inviting people to be in that same practice, love God and love your neighbor,
There's the principle.
Even though it might be called by a different name or have a different mythology around it or a different story about it.
Or a whole different set of dogma and
Definitely.
And all of the things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I find myself looking for the principle, a tree by its fruit. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we think about women, well, I didn't know I was going to talk about this until we just went live, and now it won't leave me alone. We think about this in terms of women, and we think about this in terms of like the ancient feminine principles, or what we're calling Black Madonna Codes or Magdalene Codes. I love one element of this that shows up in sex work and sex workers. So I was raised, believing that sex work was despicable and the worst thing that a woman could possibly choose to do for herself. That they're all victims, that they're all doing this from a disempowered place, so much judgment and labels and things. And then I had this friend, and over many, many years, got to know her. And after many, many years, she opened up and she shared with me, this is in my past. I don't want anybody to know, because she's in a system right now that says that's despicable and you might not be loved if you ever let anybody know that this has been a part of your life.
Right.
And I felt honored, like she must have known in me that I wasn't going to judge her and that I could appreciate what she had to say about it. And we had this road trip and she shared these stories with me and I was in awe, and it brings me tears. I can feel tears welling up in my eyes right now as I think about the ways that she was operating as a priestess in these dark corners of the world, like that she made people feel so seen, that she helped people like step into their power. There definitely were women in that space who were doing it from a place of disempowerment or helplessness or feeling like I have no other choice. And that she was able to speak like into their strengths, into their confidence, into the root of who they are, including one man who was a client of hers. And she was his closest companion, listened to him, supported him, cared for him. They never had a relationship outside of the work. And he started talking about suicidal ideation and, that he was really feeling like there's nothing left. And in the end, she didn't save him from suicide. He did commit suicide. And when he did, he put in his will everything to her, everything to her. Like, wow. Just to convey the depth of how what she did was so meaningful. So I think about that in relation to, we know in many different traditions across cultures, there was sex work in relation to connecting to the divine. And it was seen as priestess work. And sometimes there was money exchange, sometimes there was not. It was done in temples. It was like, so opposite of how we view what this thing is called sex work. And I'm like, we've never lost it. It just went underground. And women feel called to these things. Like, the principle is still there.
I agree. There's healing power in touch. There's healing power in presence. There's healing power in being seen. And sometimes in those spaces, that's where a person feels safest to allow themselves to be seen, to allow themselves to be touched, because there's none of the other. It's like a clean understanding. Everybody knows what they're there for. Excuse me. There's no ulterior motives. You don't have to worry that this person is wanting something from you or trying to extract from you or whatever. And probably because it is so bastardized as a practice, that is what allows so much of the negative, the women doing it from a disempowered space, the trafficking, the human trafficking, the people who are forced into it against their will. Like, it's one thing to do it to be a choice, and this is what I choose, and this is what I want to do. And then it's another thing to have it not be that.
Yeah.
And for other people to be making money off of your labor.
Yeah.
That's a whole bigger conversation.
Well, and it's interesting because, like, we have different oppressive forces placed upon us in so many different ways. And it's like this woman who's been trafficked to the United States from an Asian country or from the Philippines or something like this, right? Like, she is still a goddess hiding in plain sight, and she still manages to do really amazing things under oppression. And we definitely don't want her to stay there in oppression, but like she is also accessing this power. And I find that part of it feels contradictory. And yet it's almost like the two principles can exist at the same time. They don't actually contradict.
Two things can be true at the same time. And I would say that there are lots of people who are living under oppressive systems who are able to stay connected to the power and the presence to be a channel for spirit, to be a channel for good. Native Americans have been living under oppression, and they've been betrayed over and over again by the government. And still they have their practices. Still they bring their, I want to use the word magic, but I feel like magic is not a strong enough word. But that deeper connection, that deeper understanding. And so, no, it's not impossible. It's not ideal. It's not the most desired experience that you want for someone, and I think that that's part of how you don't fall into despair. Right? At least that's how it works for me in my own personal life. When things are really hard, when things are really, they just look untenable, impossible, remembering my connection to something bigger than myself is the thing that keeps me from just being like, all right, I'm done. It keeps me moving forward. So that's a micro example. And in the macro, we've seen lots of groups of people who have had to endure. I imagine in Palestine, in spite of everything, there are still people who are able to find joy, right? And to be present for one another, and to be loving, and to be soft.
Yeah.
In the face of a world trying to erase them.
Yeah. Yeah. So many groups like this. And then I think that also brings us to the part of the conversation, the transition point. Like, not everyone is able to ever find a transition point out of that disempowered state. And they work their power and they work their magic, like our ancestors, right? In whatever the conditions were, worked their power, worked their magic as much as they possibly could, brought light and hope to others around them, never found a transition point out of it. And I think that the more and more our world evolves, the more windows of opportunity there are for many of us to have the privilege to find a transition point out of a thing, or make a stand. Sometimes the transition out is death.
Sometimes the transition out is death. Out of the circumstance.
Yeah.
Out of the circumstance. So, yeah, it's when I think about the people who were able to buy their freedom, buy their way out of slavery, or it's like, what makes you think to do that? And then on the other hand, there are the people, when Harriet Tubman came for them, they said they didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't willing to take the risk.
Or didn't want to leave their family, their children.
Or didn't want to, yep, 100%. Like whatever their reasons are.
Yeah.
So it's so, it's such a big thing to wrap your mind around.
Mm-hmm.
This, what's hiding, what it persists in spite of being in the darkness or being shoved into the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also talked about how sometimes you have to leverage being in the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
When you first brought it up, I thought about the CIA. Like there's this whole power structure, like of clandestine operations around the world that depends on being in the shadows, that operates in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think is in the world of personal development and spirituality and even psychology, people look at the shadow as if it's a negative thing or a bad thing. And that's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
That it's bad, or like, can we just get rid of the shadow? But it's like, you need the shadow. You need the light and the shadow. You need the light and the darkness, or everything's just flat, right? In art, in a piece of art, in a painting, if you don't have the light and the dark, you don't have any contrast. You need the contrast. And when I started looking at it that way, it's looking at it, oh, this is contrast. When something unpleasant comes up, oh, this is contrast, not, oh, this sucks, or, oh, this is terrible, or whatever. It's really just helping me sharpen my discernment. It's really helping me sharpen my own awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because without the shadow, you will miss things. You won't see things. And then there's also the bringing light to the shadow. And there's always a gift there. There's always something in there. Yeah. Like in a video game, you got to go to the place to find the key to go to the next level and,
Mm-hmm.
Slay the dragon, whatever it is. I haven't played video games in a very long time.
Oh my gosh, I love them. I play with my kids all the time.
My kids won't let me play with them. They're like, Mom, you don't know. No, you're too slow. They're like too advanced. You're too beginner. You're too beginner. We don't want to teach you. You'll slow us down. I'm like, dang.
I want to bring in Rosa Parks because this struck me around this. Like, I never really, I read about her as a history figure. And I saw her as kind of a two-dimensional character because I never took the time to really get to know her. I still haven't. I'd like to do that more. But thinking about this element of hiding in plain sight, like Rosa Parks made a decision on a day, but that was not like a singular, it wasn't like, oh, I was too tired to move or something. Like, it was so strategic. And for how many years of her life had she lived quietly swallowing the poison and moving to the back? Like, and choosing that, knowing it's not the time. And if I do something, I need to be fully prepared for the consequences of this choice. And I think she was prepared to die. Like, she was prepared for whatever. And when the time came for her to, like you said, bring light into this darkness and take a stand and say, all right, now I was strategically hiding and now I'm strategically not anymore. Like, the result and there were consequences, and it was not a fun experience for her. And how, like, the power in that kind of a decision.
Right. Part of what happened during the civil rights movement was we had television.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were cameras that showed up to take film footage of fire hoses being turned on people and dogs being unleashed on people who were walking, protesting peacefully. They were just walking. And I think part of that's part of what made it the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because television wasn't ubiquitous before then.
Right.
And part of what happened is like pressure. There was pressure now because people could see what was happening.
Yeah.
Other people who don't live here.
Yeah.
That was part of what made it effective. Kind of the way apartheid came down in South Africa. People started paying attention. People started boycotting. They got sanctions. Like, it became untenable. The Montgomery bus boycott, they lost 70% of their revenue when Black people stopped riding the bus.
Wow.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But there is a time.
Yeah. A time to leave. A time to say nope.
Yep. A time to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And discernment is in that listening, right? We kind of touched on that too, right? The listening to the still small voice. Mm-hmm. That's gonna, like, go now, do it now.
Mm-hmm. And that pilgrimage back to self, like, I think about my own journey with religion and the smallness that I chose over and over and over. But much of the time, I didn't know how to listen within. I didn't know, like, oh, this feeling I'm feeling is cognitive dissonance because my inner voice is telling me something's wrong here. Something's not right. Something about this, like, I should do something different.
Right. It's like that nudge, but you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are feeling this way right now, like watching the political landscape. And it's like feeling like it's so big and I'm so small. And what difference can I make? It's like, this isn't right. And I know this isn't right, but I don't know what to do. What can I do about it?
Yeah.
That's a real thing. But that's part of the journey.
Yep.
In the hero's journey, I think they call it the call.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So you reach that point. I mean, for me, that's exactly, it was like a point. And I was like, oh, I see now. I I totally see. It took some like universe style grabbing me by the shoulders and shaking.
I was gonna ask that. I was like, what got you to that point? What got you from this isn't right? Something's not right about this. Like I can't quite put my finger on it to, oh, I need to move now.
Yeah. It's interesting trying to form a narrative around what happened and trying to be like, oh, okay, this cause and effect, then this, it was then this domino and this. It's very challenging to do because like it's so big and there's so many threads. But the ultimate breaking moment was a dream. I had a dream, and in the dream I was two people. I was living as myself, and I had made like a clone version of me that was this happy little robot Mormon version, housewife, mommy, and she never had extreme emotion. She didn't laugh very much, and she didn't cry. She didn't rage, and she didn't have a lot of passion. She just did. She had her head down. She was obedient. She made the food. She had slippers at the door when her husband got home. She had the kids' faces washed every day. She was doing that thing. And then there was me, which I knew in the dream was my true self. And I knew I had created her. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I created this version of me, and I was supposed to remain invisible. And I had a superpower where I could turn it off and on. I could be invisible or visible. And there were times when I could see my husband's happiness waning. And so when she was away, I would come in, the true self, me, and I'd make him laugh, or I'd have hot sex, or I would, something that brought some spice to his life. And then and he would think it was her the whole time, and I would get invisible again. And then in the dream, basically everything hit the fan, everything fell apart. And I discovered that the whole system that I was in that taught me that this was how I was to succeed in life was a lie. And I had done all this sacrifice for nothing. I had used my power of invisibility just to hurt myself. And in the end, it didn't matter. And I got nothing. I got nothing for doing that. And I woke up just like, that the one where you wake up and you're like, that's how I woke up, like, just, and then I just cried for like 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I went for a walk with my husband for like 3 hours. We were at this cabin in Colorado, and there was this one, it was a dirt road, and we could have just walked and walked forever. There's all these dirt roads out there, and I just sat down on this one rock and I just cried and cried. I mean, probably for like 2 hours, just sitting on this one rock and just being like, I can't keep doing this. I'm doing this and I can't. And it means I need to leave. And I never thought I would leave. Like, we had built everything on this system and this religion and this foundation. And it was like, nope, this is the moment. This is the moment where I say, I can't keep doing this anymore.
Okay, that's so big. So when you said I need to leave, were you telling him you needed to leave the marriage, or were you inviting him to leave with you?
I was saying, I need to leave the church. I was saying,
oh,
yeah, I need to leave this church.
Well, that's not going to go over well.
It was scary. It was crazy because I was like, I don't know how he's going to handle this. I don't know how my kids are going to handle this. And then all of our, people.
You have a world built around this system.
Whole world. You're also like, you go where your neighbors go. Like, that's how it works. Like, they draw boundaries. And so you go with the people that live close to you that are also going. I'm like, oh my gosh, we still live in that same house. It's just so bizarre because I know they just drive by our house and we drive by their house and now we don't talk and whatever. It was so big and scary. And my husband was so sweet about it. He was just like, you need to do what you feel is right, and I will support you. And
That's tremendous.
It was huge because he actually was going through a bunch of deconstruction himself. He was having a lot of angry feelings towards the church. And I had been saying the same thing to him for months leading up to this thing. And the whole time I was like, look, I know where I stand, but you need to do what's best for you. And it's not going to destroy our marriage. And I'm not going to leave you over it. Like, I want you to be happy and choose what feels right for you. And he was angry, but he wasn't actually really thinking about leaving. He was just really angry. Kind of a lot of things have come up from the internet and things that he was taught it was one way, but it was actually this way, and things that were hidden and all this stuff. And he was just really angry. And so I had already been saying these things to him, thinking, I know where I stand. I mean, I'm standing here in this church, but you can do what you need to do, and it'll be really hard, but we'll figure it out. And suddenly I'm saying this. He wasn't ready to leave. He was just like, so suddenly he was saying it to me. And then going to my kids, this is what I say. I always say, I still believe in miracles because of the way this all unfolded. I went to my kids, and my oldest daughter started crying when I told her I wasn't going to be going back anymore, but that she could choose for herself what she wanted to do. She started crying out of relief because she was like, I've been feeling this way for years, and I never thought I could speak a word of it to anyone because I thought you guys were just bought in. I was just going to have to carry this alone my whole life. Isn't that so precious? I mean, I was stunned, but she was right. We did not create a space where you could express doubt.
Right, that's not really allowed in those kinds of systems.
No. Yeah. And yeah, basically over the next 6 months, we kind of all came to the decision together. There started to be a lot of pressure. Like, the church was like, you're not sending your kids to youth camp. Like, that's not a thing. You just make them go. I'm like, well, they don't want to. And so I'm conflicted. And they're like, what are you talking about? You just make them go. You know, this is going to be good for them. Just make them go. And there was this like Mormon side of me that was like, I'm supposed to just make them go. And then there was this other side of me that was like, they should get to choose for themselves. And so kind of like the hive started hovering. People were coming over, checking up on us more. People were asking questions. Mm-hmm. People were like, so are you going to be at church on Sunday? It's like they could feel something had shifted in us. Mm-hmm. Got to be a lot. At one point I got this text message from the youth were supposed to get together, divvy up all these cookies and take them to the inactives. These are people who are members but are no longer going. And I got the text message, and then we were on the list and we received the cookies. And I was like, this is like not a friendly gesture. I don't even know. I feel like these cookies are infected. Like,
oh no.
With judgment, like with like, oh, let's take these to the inactives or whatever. And so finally my husband was like, let's take a 6-month break. We're going to announce to everyone we're taking a 6-month break, and we will have a decision at that point. And that's what we did. And so then 6 months later, everyone was very, very clear. All the kiddos, my husband, I already knew I didn't need the 6 months, but and then we left.
But that's so beautiful. This whole conversation of the way you guys allowed space for one another. Yeah. Like, your commitment to your marriage is just so, I don't know, it's so evident that it's like, well, whatever you decide, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, we'll figure it out. Yes, it's going to be hard, but we'll figure it out. Like, that level of commitment, that level of presence, of showing up for somebody, of letting them know it's okay to be where they are with what they are, like, that's really sounds like love to me in its expression, in practice. when it's not easy. It's easy to be in love and loving when everybody's in agreement and everybody's on the same page, and everybody wants the same thing. And it's more difficult to hold that when people are having divergent conversations, when people are having doubts, when people are questioning things, and the level of honesty and transparency. You went to your kids and you gave them a choice. That was the one thing my mother used to be on me about with my kids. Like, why do you give them a choice? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. Because I see my children as human. They're human beings. And no, they don't know everything. And no, they don't get to choose about everything, because there's also choices that are related to the family dynamic. Like, what school do you go to? No, you can't go to a school on one side of town while your sibling goes to a school on the other side of town, because I can't get everybody to school.
Yeah.
So, but to give her the choice to have her own agency, and then to find out that everybody's swimming in the same water.
Yeah.
That's really, really a tremendous story.
Thank you.
It's the allowing everyone, like, to let it be okay for you to be who you are and be where you are.
Yeah.
And to be, I'm not going to leave you because you made a different choice, or I'm not going to leave you because you have questions.
Yeah.
Because that's often what people use as leverage. If you don't toe the line, if you don't do the things, then I'm going to leave you. That's what the church does, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't follow every jot until I'm sorry, we have to talk about the underwear. Talk about the underwear, because this I did not know about the Mormon church. I did not know that they have special underwear that they have to wear. Please tell the story of the underwear.
Garments. And basically, when you reach a certain point in your membership, there's like a ladder. So the first prong on the ladder is baptism. And then there's a few other prongs, and eventually you're at this point of going to the temple to make covenants. And the first covenants that you make are with God and yourself. And then the ultimate pinnacle is making the covenant of marriage. And then you're sealed in the temple so that your family is together forever, for all eternity. And which sounds really beautiful. It's preached as a doctrine of like families together forever, but it actually becomes a system of exclusivity, because if you didn't go through the temple, your family's not together forever. And those members of your family who fall away are not guaranteed to be with you forever. So it's high pressure, high stakes. If you don't follow and toe this line, you're not going to be as a family forever. So part of that, when you make your first, well, it's not actually your first. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, you make certain promises, and and then you have these garments, is what they're called, that you wear that represent the promises that you made. A lot of the promises are just not telling anybody about the temple. Like, I'm breaking the covenants that I made right now by even talking about garments, by even talking about the covenants, but I'm done. I've already removed my name from the records and everything. So even just this time last year, if I had been talking about this, I would have been shaking. I feel very calm in my body. It's been a process of unraveling for sure. It's only been 2.5 years that we've been out. So, but yeah, you wear these Mormon underwear, and they're it's like a t-shirt and shorts that go almost to your knees, and then
it almost looks like a bodysuit, but a short with shorts, right?
And
then wait. And then you put your underwear on top.
Your bra. Yeah. Usually people just don't wear underwear. They just skip that and just wear these. But like women want to wear a bra and you're supposed to have your garments up against your skin. So then your bra goes over top of the garment. It's very awkward and it's very hot. It was always very hot. There's like elastic and it's very uncomfortable. Yeah, so I wore those for like 16 years. Yeah.
Through pregnancies.
Yep. Yep.
And nursing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do you even get out of that thing to nurse your kid?
They try to make improvements to make them more comfortable and to make them more stretchy and more like workable with daily life and stuff. So there's pregnancy ones that have like maternity style, like peekaboo situation and stuff like that. But it was always bad. It was always
I'm just in my mind, I'm thinking maybe this worked better when you were wearing skirts, like when women like when they first came across the country and they had the big dresses and stuff. Because it looks like bloomers.
Yeah.
It looks like or in today's parlance, boxer briefs.
Yeah.
Right.
When they first created them, I cannot imagine, because when the women were only, we're thinking like pioneers in America 200 years ago, and they're only wearing, and it's all white women, by the way, because Black people were not invited into the Mormon church until the 70s, basically, which is crazy. But they're wearing these corsets and the whole getup, right? The whole dress and everything. But when they first created the garments, it wasn't a shirt and shorts. It was all one piece. So
one piece. It's almost like those pajamas that you see people wear that with the flap in the back, so you can go to the bathroom.
I think they may have had that. Now that you're saying it, I think they may have had that. So they've altered them over time. You could still buy a one piece. It's still available.
That's insane. That is, I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine. But all of that is part of the commitment. And I like the way you make the distinction of it sounds really beautiful when they invite you in and they tell you about it, but you don't realize that you're buying into this high pressure, restrictive, rigid system.
Same with the garments. It has this beautiful meaning of like, oh, this is how I show God and I'm always reminded of these promises and this covenant. It's almost like a marriage between you and God. And like, oh, this is but it's also this whole system of oppression, because now I can't show my shoulders, because heaven forbid, whatever's so sexy about shoulders, whatever's so scandalous about shoulders, I can't show, and I'm very tall. So finding shorts that would cover my garments, it was always a struggle. I would go around and kind of pull up my garments all throughout the day because I could not find shorts long enough to cover the whole garment. They're like stretchy and long, and
come down to you. Does the garment come down to your knees?
Very close. Yeah. It was a whole thing. Yeah. So it's this symbol of modesty and covering your body and all of the things that come with that don't sound so beautiful. Like, why?
I think it fits right into the theme of hiding in plain sight. Like that's part of like the physical expression of you have to keep yourself covered. You have to keep yourself hidden in a way. Mm-hmm. That fits right in with the theme of the call, today's call. Mm-hmm. About hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is where I struggle, because it's hard to label. I was a Mormon for 18 years. It's hard to not label that as like a bad part of my life. Like there's a lot of trauma and processing and every range of emotion possible in this process of like reckoning and reclaiming and all of the things. But I also know, like, I have a lot of respect for the women in the Mormon church and for women that I called friends, that I still consider friends. I don't know what they consider me, but like I see them working in tremendous ways under oppression, and they're totally blind to the oppression. Like women in the church are most notorious for saying patriarchy is a thing of the past. And everybody outside of the Mormon church would say women in the Mormon church are in an oppressive system of the patriarchy. Like it's so obvious to everyone except for those who are in the cult, in the system. And they're like, no, I don't feel oppressed. I was that way. I don't feel oppressed. It's like, you know, and so within these constructs, that's the other thing is I saw so many women like reaching outside of themselves, like, I know I'm made for more. I know I'm meant to really bless like humankind. Like, let me access spiritual gifts. Let me like, you know, speak to my ancestors. Let me find loopholes around all these rules so that I can like be in my power and like actually affect change. And um and there's a lot of discouragement around that stuff. They came out right before I left with instructions around don't pray to Heavenly Mother. Yes, we have her. You're not allowed to speak to her because we have this relationship with the goddess, and all these women are waking up to like, I want to be close to the goddess. Like, and also, don't do energy healing. Energy healing is bad, like whatever, because they saw this movement happening. Like the women are accessing power. We need to like tell them to stop. And I'm a living proof of that. I accessed all of those things and I marched myself right out. So like, you know, what they're seeing is real. They know like we're losing them.
That's wild.
Yeah.
There is responsibility that comes with power.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you might think of it as the worst or a bad time in your life. And I would, it maybe a difficult time, maybe challenging. I think that your time there built something in you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Around commitment and practice. Like there's some good things that you got from going through that experience. Yeah. And when you change one thing, you change everything. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be here with me having this conversation right now. And sometimes like it feels like it's easy to diminish or to wish that things that were unpleasant or that we look back on and say, you know, I could have done better, to make those things bad or wrong, but it's all part of it's like the rungs you're talking about.
Yeah.
So like you have to go through that so that you can get here.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I really feel that too. It's so interesting again to hold like what feels like two opposing positions at the same time in my own body. And I think that like leaving has really helped me expand my capacity to be with paradox. Yeah, one of the things that to me is really profound is having been in a system where I didn't feel like I could be myself and how that taught me who I was by contrast.
Right.
And it was interesting the other day. So my husband and I are in marriage counseling. We're like pretty much always in counseling. We're always in, it's good practice, you know, it's how we stay alive. We just celebrated our 18-year wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. On Friday, we had our marriage therapy session and we're kind of explaining to the therapist some of our past. And with this, she was like, oh my gosh, it sounds to me like the two of you, though you've been together for 18 years, just started to get to know each other after you left, like for 2 years.
Right, yeah. Because now you're both free to be yourselves.
Yeah.
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 So, and everybody's not ready for that level of responsibility. And that's why it feels, it's not oppressive here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. There was a woman, this wonderful coach, Amber Campion, who I worked with in like 2019. And much of what she taught me, I wasn't ready for, but it didn't leave me. And it wasn't until after leaving that things she had said to me would come back. But I was afraid of her. And it's because she lived so sovereign. She was just so sovereign. She's a yoga teacher. She just opened her own yoga studio in town. I just went to it for the first time last night, and it's like so stunning. Like, I'm just so proud of her. She's always been like that. She's just the type of person that gets something in her mind, test it out. She gets a strategic plan. She executes, and she does everything she puts her mind to. It's amazing to like witness her. And I was afraid of her. And there was a time when she said to me, like, I really enjoy you. And I've gotten to meet your kids and your husband now. Like, I would love to like come over and hang out with you guys and like spend time with you guys. And I never followed up with her because I was like, you're scary.
sounds like Eleanor Roosevelt's quote. You have to do the thing you're afraid to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I thought she was dangerous. I thought I was protecting myself. I was like, she's sort of dangerous. She was
dangerous.
She
to
was.
that version of you that was completely bought in
the best way. Dangerous in the best way.
She was definitely challenging you. She was showing you what's possible.
Yep. So I think about this all in relation to even this pilgrimage that we're inviting women onto. It's like when I hear the word pilgrimage, I think of going in devotion to something other than yourself. But we all are in these pilgrimages in deep devotion to self. And a lot of times it does mean leaving. You know, we're running a book right now called Wild Belonging about women who have left what no longer holds them and coming home to their sovereignty. And it's like, that is a pilgrimage. Certainly our pilgrimage in France is going to be laden with lots of yumminess. And I like the idea of strategically creating something for myself that I have more say and control over, so I can make it beautiful, so that I can say, oh, not all the pilgrimages have to feel like going through thresholds of death. You know? Like, there's power when we say, oh, now I am choosing to go on this pilgrimage, and it's going to be a thing of beauty and a thing of joy and all of that.
Better and better.
Yeah, but there's so much beauty in these inner pilgrimages that we go on.
Yes, 100%. Looking forward. I'm really looking forward to the pilgrimage in France. And when I think of pilgrimage, I think of The Alchemist. Have you read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho? Yeah, that for me, it's always a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
That is what an adventure is for. That is what it is, stepping into the unknown. You're getting to know parts of yourself that you may not be very familiar with.
Yeah.
So, but it's, when you talk about coming pilgrimage into your sovereignty, it's like in the service of your higher self, not the little I, the big I. The big I that's connected to the eternal. That's what it is for me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, like, I'm very familiar with myself in suffering. Like, I know that version, and I'm a badass, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Like, I know what it looks like on the front trenches, and like, bring it on. And I like to create experiences in my life where I get to see mirrors of myself in relation to elation and ecstasy and expansion and beauty. And, you know, that, what about that?
Right. In our society, there's this sort of belief that growth has to be hard.
Yeah.
Or to grow, it has to be difficult and it has to be challenging. And what if that's not true?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't have to be hard? I think the hardness comes from the extent to which we resist is where the hardness comes from.
Mm.
And if we can soften and allow, we could just experience the growth part. So yeah, we get to create that. We
Yeah.
are creating that
Yeah.
for all our participants.
Yeah. We'd love for you
Exciting.
to join us. Those of you who are watching, reach out. Let's talk. Come join us. The other thing we want you to join us in is we're holding a Black Madonna gathering again on May 31st. That's a Sunday. It'll be from 9 to 10:30 Pacific time. And this is just a free gathering where instead of only hearing Deidra and I rattle on, we get to we invite you also to come into the conversation, to bring your images and symbols of Black Madonna or other ancient goddesses or modern day examples of people that you feel are really carrying these principles like we talked about at the beginning, and what that looks like and means for us as modern women leaders today. And so we'd love to have you come and join us in that. I forgot to include the link in the description, but I'll go back and paste it right now.
Awesome. This was long.
It was long. Do you have anything else you want to add, Deidra, before we wrap up today?
No, I think we get to spend the next one talking about pilgrimage.
Great. Love it. Yeah, we seeded that to start us off. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and joining us on the Black Madonna Codes, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.